It was a busy week for President Trump and a frenzied week for everyone who hates him.
This was a blatant submission to a genuine foe.
I don't think it's extreme to use that treason words.
When the media think about Russia, all they think about is election meddling.
The sinking of a tour boat in a Missouri lake.
There was a family of 11, and they lost 9 members of that family.
Progress with North Korea on its nuclear program.
We can't do one thing until we see North Korea respond to their promise to denuclearize.
The $40 million commissioner, that's Roger Goodell, must now make a stand. First time kneeling, out for game. Second time kneeling, out for season, no pay.
NFL players who essentially tell the team owners, the bosses, that here's the way it's going to be. And I just wonder who's running this.
We're here in Kansas City to rally for Brent Welder. We're going to flip this seat red in November.
For a socialist to say they're going to flip a seat red in November is like me saying, welcome to Morning Joe. Oh, no, actually, welcome to Fox and Friends. If you don't know the basics, you don't know the basics. The socialists from here in New York City.
We
actually have real people watching the show. It's true. Sorry.
Good morning to all of you. And guess what? It is National Junk Food Day.
Yes.
Because we need more junk food on the show, don't we?
You said you've recently ate a lot of junk food because...
I was pregnant, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
So now I can just keep eating
You're an
it.
expert.
Usually you get off that diet when you have the child, but I've just kept it going.
Exactly.
How can you not when you anchor the show every weekend?
Yeah. Email us, friends@foxnews.com, your favorite junk food. Mine was clear. It was the quickest answer I gave.
What is yours?
Well, it's Cheetos.
Yeah,
Once I eat one, I got to go to the bag.
Cheetos was on my list, but not at the top. I will wait to reveal the top one. Yes, well,
because you're a professional TV
I didn't realize the question was which was your one favorite, and my daughters, which are right in the back of the car with me when I got asked the question, by Stephanie, I rattled off a long litany of junk food.
Yes, you did.
I'm health conscious, but I do have a junk. But I can't eat chocolate, so I've got to make up with things like Cheetos and other good stuff.
Well, I made up for it because that's mine. Anything chocolate, I'm obsessed with. So, yeah, send us your favorite junk food, friends@foxnews.com. But as always, a lot of news to get to. And someone that's being talked a lot about for a 2020 run against President Donald Trump is Joe Biden. And he has been making the rounds most recently in Arizona. This was yesterday at the border. Well, he visited the border, and here he was in Phoenix having some real tough words about immigration policy as of late. Here's what he had to say.
Grotesque lies about immigrants, about crime, about cost to the community. This administration's policy that literally ripped babies from the arms of their mothers and fathers. It's one of the darkest moments in our history. Not only is it a national shame, it tarnishes the very idea of America and diminishes our standing in the world.
Of course, so the president has said that Joe Biden would be his dream opponent. He said he's run multiple times and was picked up out of the garbage heap by President Obama to be his vice presidential candidate. But the problem here, Griff, is not whether he'll be a candidate or not. It's the facts of what he's alleging in what looked like a campaign-style speech.
Yeah, facts get in the way because, you know, it was during the Obama-Biden years in 2014 that they created that center, that processing center in McAllen, Texas, where all the outrage was, where I was reporting to you guys. And they said, listen, it was a response to the surge on the border then. It's the same process now. The Border Patrol has not ripped one baby from any mother's hands. The policy is certainly being enforced, but it is the same policy. And the irony of it is what we talked in the last hour to Dan Bongino with, because he understands the problem with Biden's comments. Here's what Dan Bongino said.
This policy was in effect during the Biden and Obama years and was enforced even more grotesquely, to use his words. He starts that thing off by talking about a series of grotesque lies, and then doubly ironic, goes on to lie about what the policy is. It's been in effect way before Donald Trump came into office, and even worse, Donald Trump signed an executive order asking his DOJ to challenge that policy, and it's the courts that said, hey, we can't, the policy's been in effect for a while. It's incredible.
Look, I think there's a lot of pressure for Joe Biden if he does want to run in the Democratic Party. The party's moved very extreme to the left specifically when it comes to immigration, and I think he's feeling that pressure. If he is going to actually run and win the primary, which you have to do first if you get to a general election, you've got to be extreme on these issues because that is what many of that base wants right now.
The party's become open borders, socialist, abolish ICE, Medicare for all. That's never been Joe Biden, and I think he's a liberal, so I don't agree with him, but that wasn't, he's going to have to figure out, they always do the dance, and this looks to be part of the dance, and it's a dance.
But you could easily see President Trump in that debate if they go head-to-head saying, well, how do you explain that? Because all of that began under your administration, and you guys were at the helm of that.
That's right. The National Guard, who has remained apolitical in this whole thing, eventually is going to have to say, listen, Vice President Biden, you know, this is what you created, and now the Trump administration is pushing it a step farther with zero tolerance policy enforcement, but it is the same thing that was put in place.
Great and important point, Griff. So this whole week, we've been following the Helsinki summit, the fallout, the finger-pointing, the corrections, all things that have happened this week. As part of that, we don't know everything that was said, or much of what was said behind closed doors. Some of that discussion was Vladimir Putin proposing that some of the 12 folks indicted by Bob Mueller be interrogated while Americans watch, and then they said, well, we want maybe one of your former ambassadors back, which led to
They wanted a few people back. He said, let's do like an exchange program where we take a financier, Browder, but also McFaul, who was a former ambassador to Russia as well. And at one point, the White House, Sarah Sanders says, well, it's under consideration, and that got a lot of pushback. But back to that topic, Hillary Clinton has doubled down on this, right? She's pretty upset about the way this is handled.
So Hillary Clinton first tweeted this. Let's start with the tweet. And this is what she said. So Ambassador McFaul, who had the job, I believe, before your father, right, Abby, ambassador to Russia, is a patriot who has spent his career standing up for America. To see the White House even hesitate to defend a diplomat is deeply troubling, which led us to go to the Wayback Machine about a diplomat that lost his life in Benghazi, January 23rd of 2013. Listen to Hillary Clinton then.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Now, what difference does at this point does it make when you put that tweet and talk about the sacrosanct nature of diplomacy? Imagine, and it's personal for you, Abby. Imagine if your father was the ambassador to Libya. That it does make a difference. Now, Chris Tantoparanto, one of the Benghazi attack survivors, one of the guys on the ground there, well, he had something to say about what Hillary Clinton's sudden now defense of diplomats. Listen.
Well, they've already dishonored, they being Hillary Clinton and those people that follow her, support her, as far as disrespecting the family members of my teammates, and that's just another jab in the eye. It's not even awful, I would say murderous. We had the assets available, and she's the one that set them down, that didn't let them to come to us. And I believe the assets that were available in the area would have saved Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty's, my 2 teammates' lives. It's an elitist attitude that we're seeing, and you see it with Comey, you see it with Brennan, you see it with Clapper, that they feel like they've done nothing wrong, ever. And it's just mind-boggling.
Makes a big difference.
Obviously, that was something really close to his heart. Either way, though, I think a lot of people were scratching their head and frankly furious at the fact that the White House would even consider exchanging our own people to the Russian government. That should not even be something that crosses your mind.
I think it may have been something proposed by Putin. Trump just didn't sit there and say...
All the more reason to say no.
But when you make the comparison of the immediate and overwhelming defense of even the thought of it, right? And I agree, it's not a good idea, versus the defensive nature of what difference does it make why these 4 people were killed at Benghazi.
Yeah.
I think both can be wrong. Right.
So there's also this story, Pete, which I know you'll love, coming to a theater near you. In 20 states, the surge of socialism. Now, Bernie Sanders and the newly famous Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, running on the socialist ticket, won the primary here in New York. Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez were out in Wichita, Kansas, talking about their campaign to bring socialism to America. Take a listen.
People told me that Kansas was a Republican state. Doesn't look like that today.
We want to be a nation that allows improved and expanded Medicare for all.
To transform this country politically and economically.
We are a nation that will not stop until every child is born with the opportunity to go to college or trade school free of cost.
That sounds great, right? If only that were reality and the cost wouldn't come from somewhere, right?
Free.
So, free Medicare, $15 minimum wage.
Excellent.
Free college tuition.
VA Medicare.
And the new part of the Democrat socialist agenda, which is to abolish ICE. That is working its way in there now.
We've already had a candidate that told us he was going to fundamentally transform America. Of course, that was Barack Obama. But he wouldn't use the word socialist, right? He just sort of pursued policies similar there, too. The energy of the last cycle was Bernie Sanders. If they're now coming out and saying, we are who we are, democratic socialism is the new mainstream of the Democratic Party, they're writing their ticket for irrelevancy for a very long time, because that's not where the American people are.
I'm not entirely sure that, because listen, they're laying out what Sanders is laying out with some momentum, and we saw this the last cycle, is a clear choice. Here's your clear choice. It may sound crazy to you, but to many people who lean in this vein, and apparently 45,000 individuals nationwide consider themselves socialists, it's a clear choice.
It's actually a great point. The complaint for a long time was Democrats and Republicans are too similar. Now you have the choice. You've got Trump Republicans who believe in and socialists.
And that's why you see Joe Biden, who's trying to tout that line. Where else do you go if you want to win the Democratic primary today? All right, send us your thoughts, friends at FoxNews.com. But there is a lot going on this morning. I do want to bring you some other headlines we're following. Starting on a serious note with a Fox News alert. And a survivor in the horrific duck boat crash loses 9 family members, including all 3 of her children. She says the boat's captain told them not to grab life jackets because they wouldn't need them.
I said, Lord, just let me die. Let me die. I said, I can't keep drowning. And I said, Jesus, please keep me. Just keep me so I can get to my children. Keep me, Lord.
So heartbreaking. 39 people have died in 6 separate duck boat incidents since 1999 nationwide. Also this, a grand jury indicting the suspect in the mass shooting at a Maryland newspaper office. Jared Ramos is charged with 23 counts, including murder and assault. His first court appearance is set for July 30th. He is accused in the death ambush of 5 people at the Capital Gazette last month over a long-standing grudge with that publication. And you got to be kidding me. A stray cat steals the show at a baseball game.
Little kid, you saw it right as the pitch came. Furry feline running behind home plate.
The feline showing some athletic ability, darting behind home plate at the Reds-Pirates game in Cincinnati, then jumping into the stands, as you can see there. The cat no help to the home team, though, as the Reds lose 12-1. Yikes. That's a loss.
Give that cat a bat. Just try to find a home. All right, well, coming up, Tony Podesta, the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, now offered immunity to testify against Paul Manafort, the guy in solitary confinement right now. Is this a Democratic double standard? We're going to ask Alan Dershowitz coming up next.
In a special delivery in a Chick-fil-A bathroom. Wow. A father helping his wife give birth to his new baby daughter. And the best part, he wrapped her in the shirt off his back, a Trump 2020 shirt.
They get free chicken, too?
That's
for life.
Welcome back. Well, Tony Podesta, that man right there, the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, has been offered immunity to testify against Paul Manafort, who is in jail awaiting trial. So is this a Democratic double standard? Let's ask Alan Dershowitz. He's a lifelong Democrat, a Harvard Law professor emeritus, and the author of the great book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump. So let me remind our viewers, Professor, that it was Tony Podesta who, along with Paul Manafort, in that firm, was also involved in lobbying on behalf of Ukrainian interests in the United States without properly registering. So if Paul Manafort did something wrong, so did Tony Podesta, yet Tony Podesta is getting immunity to testify against Paul Manafort. Why?
Well, as I used to teach my students at Harvard Law School in criminal law, if you're going to commit a crime in America, always commit a crime with someone more important than you are. So they'll give you immunity and you can flip against them and they can't flip against you. The special counsel is not interested either in Podesta or in Manafort. They're interested in President Trump. And what they want to do is put as much pressure as possible on Manafort because he was closer to Trump being the campaign aide for a while. And they want to squeeze him. As Judge Ellis said, who was an objective assessor of the situation, he said prosecutors not only sometimes try to make these flip witnesses sing, they try to make them compose. They try to make them elaborate and make the story better because you know that the better the story, the better the deal. So, again, Manafort is not the object of this prosecution. He and Podesta are both means. It's a domino theory. You knock one down, he'll knock the other down, and ultimately you get to your real target. That's what's so dangerous about this process.
Of course. So this is all about Trump. But, you know, you say commit a crime with someone more important than you. I don't know, Tony Podesta, brother of John Podesta, campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton, is a pretty important guy. So wouldn't we want justice for him as well? And is immunity really required here, or could they just push for answers?
Well, first of all, you can get prosecuted even though you have immunity. You get use immunity, not transactional immunity. So you can't use the evidence against you, but they can prosecute. But they probably won't. In the end, they're going to try to squeeze both of them. You say he was offered immunity. You know, being offered immunity is like being offered a disease. Nobody really wants to get immunity because it puts you in a position where you have to testify against people you like. You're not offered it. You get it. It's imposed on you. It's not generally a gift. And so I think that the goal here is to try to put a lot of pressure on Manafort and his family and his friends. And if he were to flip, if Manafort were to say to the prosecution, I'm on your side, all the pressure would be off. And the worst thing about this is that the collateral damage. They go after people who themselves, you know, may not have done anything terribly serious. Campaign violation laws aren't prosecuted all the time. The goal is to squeeze, to point upward and to point the arrow of prosecution at the person who's the real target. And that's what's wrong with special counsel. They have targets. And if they don't get their target, they have failed.
Well, we know who they're targeting right now, Professor. We only got a couple of seconds left. You've watched this unfold, the collusion portion, for 18 months. Percentage chance they find collusion?
Oh, first of all, collusion is not a crime. And I think, you know, they'll have a report. In the report, they'll put together all the pieces, and they'll leave it to Congress to see if they can find something which they deem an impeachable offense.
So
but I think in the end, it'll just be a report.
I'll go with the 0. I'm not in the, don't like to put words in your mouth, but we'll go with that. Professor Dershowitz, thank you for your time. More Fox and Friends on the other side.
25 minutes after the hour, time now for some news by the numbers. First, 100 pounds. That is how much marijuana police found inside of a North Carolina daycare. Officers also discovering cocaine, heroin, and several guns. 3 arrests were made, including the daycare owners. Yikes. And 15 feet, that is the length of this mysterious sea creature that washed ashore in Maine. At 4 feet wide and weighing in at an estimated 500 pounds. Crews needed to bring it heavy machinery to remove it. And $493 million up for grabs in the Mega Millions jackpot tonight. The lump sum payout more than $290 million bucks. The prize could still swell to more than $500 million. Get on it. Grip, over to you.
Thanks, Debbie. The 3-day manhunt for a Hawaii cop killer ending overnight after the suspect was killed in a shootout with police. Officer Kalaloa's death marks the second officer killed in the line of duty this week alone. Massachusetts Sergeant Michael Chestnut killed earlier this week while responding to reports of a car crash. That brings the total number of officers shot nationwide in the last week to 8. Here to respond to this war on cops is our law enforcement panel. Joe Peters is a former police officer. Chief Rich Mosby is with the New Jersey State Association Chiefs of Police. Carol Orazem is a retired NYPD detective, and Vince Hill is a former Nashville cop and host of the podcast Beyond the Badge. Thank you all for your service in the line of duty, the thin blue line. This is tragic. I want to get right to the thing that has really startled me, and I know it startles you, and that is at this very moment, last year, the number of officers shot and killed in the line of duty was 21. The total number of officers killed in all shot and killed in the line of duty in all of 2017 was 35. Today, Officer Kalaloa marks 31. We are fast approaching last year's total, and it's not even August. Joe, I'll start with you. Your thoughts?
It's frightening. It's a sea change. When I raised my hand to be a local cop, much less a chief, or ending up at the White House, I never would have imagined, Griff, we'd be in a position where police officers have to feel like there's a bullseye on our back. As a former federal mafia prosecutor, it used to be that even the mafia didn't want to take on the police because of the ire and downside it brought to them. Today, it's just the opposite. Not only is there no respect, but officers are almost a trophy for gang members and others.
Chief Busby, you're nodding your head when Joe's talking about the respect thing. What do you think of this war on cops, and how do we stop it?
Well, I had a meeting this week with some very senior officers, not leadership, but line officers who were specialists. And basically, the message that I left for that group was, I think that as a profession, even though we've been targeted and we've been victimized, I believe it's still incumbent upon the police as the problem solvers to turn the other cheek. We're doing everything that we can to get the truth out, and shows like this are helping us, and we appreciate that. I think that's the best thing that we can do, is to tell the public the truth, as we always have, to try to maintain the relationships based on trust, as we always have, and to try to be consistent in a time that it's very difficult to be that person.
Detective Arezzo, I want to ask you, I remember covering tragically here when officers Wynn and Lou were killed here in New York. Do you feel like that our political discourse, there are other factors that are playing into making this war on cops worse, and how do we get past that?
It seems like there's just a giant war on our police officers now, like that we're a giant target. These officers are out there saving lives, protecting people, and they're being ambushed and they're being murdered for no other reason than the uniform that they're wearing, the color of their uniform. Doesn't matter who you are, what race, nationality. Cops are from all over, and it's all about the uniform. It's all about what you're wearing, and it's really sad because as a police officer for 20 years, I never worried about myself. I was always out there trying to do what I could. I never really worried about my own safety.
Yep.
But now I have a son on the police department, and I worry about him every day.
Sure. And Officer Hill, I want to get you in here quickly. Like, you talk about this on your podcast. That is the worry for families. You know, tell me, what are we going to see in the next part of this year, and how do we give some comfort to officers on the thin blue line?
Well, unfortunately, Griff, I think we're going to see more of the same. And the biggest issue that is going on right now is this false narrative given by mainstream media about police being the bad guy. I mean, they report falsely on things, saying that things only happen in certain communities, which is totally false. When you look at numbers, more whites were killed by police than blacks in 2017. Almost double, but that's not being reported. So when you only hear one side of what police are and what we do, then of course people are going to say, oh, police are the bad guy. So we have to start telling the truth about police officers.
That's exactly right, Officer Hill, Detective Arezzo, Chief Busby, and Joe, thank you. This is an important conversation. We're going to continue to have it because it matters. Thank you for your service. We'll bring you back. We'll talk more about this in a bit. But first, she went after White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Now, comedian Michelle Wolf is comparing ICE to terrorists.
It's popular nowadays to say ICE is bad, but there's no better representation of American values. No organization is better than ISIS.
Former Governor Mike Huckabee is here to react live next. Plus, atheists force a restaurant to cancel its Sunday church discount, but there's a big update from the owner. That's straight ahead.
It's popular nowadays to say ICE is bad, but there's no better representation of American values right now than ISIS. And as an equal opportunity employer, we accept all levels of experience and education, from low to very low, and actively welcome those with diagnosed anger issues. Take it from me, no organization is better than ISIS.
Yeah, that actually happened. That is Michelle Wolf. She's a comedian on Netflix comparing ICE to ISIS. You might recognize her because she also did the jokes at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and was quite disrespectful to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who would now want to bring in Sarah's dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, former governor, Fox News contributor, and, of course, host of the Huckabee on TV. And you know you've made it in life when you are introduced as your daughter's father.
Yeah, and that's okay with me, Abby. I don't mind a bit.
I love that.
You know, we finally got a Huckabee in the White House. It was just not the one I thought it was going to be.
Well said. Well, Governor, listening to Michelle Wolf, every time I hear her speak, she just seems very, very angry.
Yeah, angry and bitter. She's not funny. You know, comedians are supposed to be funny. They're supposed to make us laugh. I love satire. It's one of my favorite forms of comedy. But her form of comedy is not satire. It's angry, bitter hate. And how can a person make fun of ISIS and make that like it's funny? I mean, ISIS beheaded a journalist on video. I'd like to know, where is the outrage among the journalists who would like to say to her, this isn't funny? You know, this is a group of people who behead journalists.
Governor, I just held a panel with 4 retired police officers, law enforcement officers, and they talked about the culture of disrespect with regards to law enforcement officers. Do you feel like parodies just like this play to continuing that narrative that we should not respect law enforcement officers, whether they be ICE officers or NYPD cops?
I think it's a very good point, Griff, and one that every American ought to think about. The people that serve us in the police agencies do so overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, and they put their lives at risk every single day they go out there and even just step up to a car to check a driver's license. They never know who's sitting in that seat and what they're going to do. And to disparage the people who enforce our laws. They don't make the laws. They enforce the laws that Congress has made. If you're mad at the way the laws are, get mad at Congress. Tell them to change the laws. But don't get mad at the people who enforce the laws. They're doing their job.
It's a typical mentality of the left. They said intelligence low to quite low. Remember when John Kerry said, if you don't study, you might get stuck in Iraq? The left thinks our police forces and our military is full of people who couldn't do anything else, which is exact opposite of the truth. But we want to take you to another story that touches on the military. The Air Force, there's a solemn ceremony. It's been a part of every Army ceremony I've ever been in. There's a table that's seated for one, and it represents the missing in action POWs who never came back, who served our country. And on that table, a part of it is a Bible, recognizing that faith is a huge part of how people get through those very moments. Well, the Air Force is now saying it's going to replace the Bible with a book of faith. I've never heard of this book of faith, but what does it tell you about our institutions when a Bible can't even be on a table?
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the nation. We're supposed to be a nation that has freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. This is an issue I'd love to see the president interject himself into. I'd love to see him say, as commander-in-chief of the military, put the Bible back on the table. Let's not be stupid about this.
Yeah. All right.
Pretty straightforward.
On another note, so Slate Magazine, I can't imagine you read it every day, Governor. It's a liberal-leaning publication, but there's an op-ed in there by Jamil Bowie, and here's what he says. Says reporters have been trying to find the issue or offense that could fracture Donald Trump's base of support. If there's anything that could break the president's hold on his base, it might be an economic agenda that harms their pocketbooks and hurts their livelihoods. So he's saying if there's anything that could break the Democratic Party apart, it's these economic policies coming from the White House. A lot of people think it's the economics that are the greatest strength for the White House right now.
You know, this is a great example of the Trump derangement syndrome, where people honestly believe from the far left that if they continue to insult us, call us deplorables, call us a bunch of idiots, that we'll wake up and say, oh my, we should follow the left. We should follow these loony liberals. No, that's not going to happen. And most people are doing better. Their paychecks are bigger. They have bonuses. They have a greater level of security in their jobs. I don't know what the left honestly thinks, but it does show how unbalanced and unhinged they are, how hysterical they have become, that they want to do something to upend the support for the president. But this is the way to do it, because all this does is make president supporters dig in deeper, become more committed, to the support for him.
You are exactly right. They don't understand they're feeding into the support of the president when they try to track.
Pete, you reminded us of Bill Maher and saying that we should have another recession. That might be the only way to get Trump out of the White House.
So rooting against America is how you root against President Trump. All right. Governor, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Always good to have you on.
Good to see you guys.
Have a good weekend. All right, turning now to some other headlines we're following this morning. Starting here, a Boy Scout leader drowns rescuing one of his young scouts. 22-year-old Wesley Kreitzer pushed the boy to shore as another leader grabbed him. Kratzner went under in the Salt Lake City, Utah lake and never came back up. His wife wants everyone to remember him as the hero that he was.
Even before he saved that kid, he was a hero for his family. I know where he's at right now, and I know that he died for a good cause.
No word yet on what made Kratzner go under. We'll keep an eye on that story for you. All right, we now know that the content of the secret recording seized from President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, on the 2-minute recording President Trump and Cohen discussed but never made a payment to a former Playboy model who claims that she had an affair with the president back in 2006. The tape was recorded in 2016 before the election and without the president's knowledge. Also this, a restaurant facing backlash from atheists over their discount to churchgoers is bringing the deal back. Starters Cafe in Ohio gave customers a 10% discount if they bring in a bulletin from any church. Owner Justin Watson dropped the deal after being threatened with a lawsuit. Here he was earlier this morning.
100% back in full swing, and we're expecting a large crowd. Ultimately, I'm just trying to serve my community, and at the end of the day, my community consists of a dozen churches.
Watson says the attention has now drummed business up about 60%. Also this, a special delivery. This is an incredible story. A Texas dad delivers his baby girl inside of a Chick-fil-A bathroom after his wife suddenly goes into labor. Employees already closed up shop for the night, but let them inside when mom realized it was too late to make it to the hospital. Dad, Robert Griffin, wrapping his Chick-fil-A baby in a warm towel before using his Trump 2020 t-shirt. Writing on Facebook, quote, "I think it's pretty ironic that a proud conservative Christian family would have a baby in a Chick-fil-A and wrapped it in a Trump 2020 t-shirt. Boom, MAGA." Mom Fallon and her little nugget are doing just fine.
I think they get Chick-fil-A nuggets for life, right?
At the least. And some of their frozen lemonade.
I think he's going to be on tomorrow. It's not ironic. It's perfect.
How great is that story? And I'm just glad the baby and the mom are both healthy and doing well.
Yeah. All right, Rick, what do you got for weather?
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Una exploring New York City.
Oh, really? How's it going?
It's awesome.
Wow.
Hi, Mom.
This is so exciting. This is amazing. Oh, my God, I love this. All right, take a look at the weather map. Show you what's going on this morning. It is hot down across the south. If you're in the south, you know this. And this pattern sticks with us for all of the weekend and into parts of this coming week. So, unfortunately, the heat continues. Here across parts of the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley towards the northeast, take a look at all of that rain coming in, especially the Outer Banks and throughout parts of Delaware and Maryland. We're going to be seeing some spots, maybe 3 to 4 inches of rain, and that's going to cause some localized flooding. Down across the southeast, big storms moving through this morning. Those will begin to clear out behind that. We'll have some clearer skies. Then you see those high temperatures across parts of Texas and Oklahoma. All right, guys, back
Rick,
over to you.
I think you felt for a brief moment what it's like to be a Backstreet Boy. Just giddy teenage girls.
It wasn't for
surrounded.
me. They saw themselves on the TV and got very excited. That wasn't for me. See?
Yeah,
it's because they see themselves on TV. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go forth and take a selfie. All right. Well done, Rick. A Yale professor urging people to harass ICE employees and protect illegals. A student from the university joins us to react live next.
And Janice Dean is live in Somerset, New Jersey for Muckfest. Why is it such a personal event for her? That's coming out next.
What is that? We are back. Listen to this story. A Yale law professor now calling on fellow progressives to harass ICE employees and actively defy federal law by urging them to hide illegal immigrants. Professor Greg Gonzalez tweeting this out, and we hide immigrants from ICE if we have to. We figure out how to get women access to health services. We unionize Despot Janice. Another tweet saying this: "I'm such a bad person. I have no qualms about showing up at ICE regional directors' homes. They can leave their jobs at the office and feel free from scrutiny at home. Lucky them. CampusReform.org first broke this story. Vienna Scott is a correspondent for Campus Reform and also a Yale sophomore. And she joins us right now. Vienna, good to have you with us. What a story and what an angry professor. And the irony of all of this, a law professor.
Oh, I know. That's the craziest part of this story. Someone who works teaching people how to understand the law and how to work within the law is actively advocating online for us to subvert that law.
So what is he so upset about? What does he want to change?
So he is clearly upset about immigration policy as a whole. He seems to be upset probably in wake of these stories about the separations of family and the larger political narrative that's going on in our country right now. But he is advocating online for people to hide illegal immigrants themselves and for people to show up at the homes of ICE employees.
Yeah, but guess what, Vienna? You know this. That is not ICE's fault. ICE is doing a directive coming from the top. If you got a frustration, if you want things to change, then be angry at your lawmakers. Be angry at the people that are putting forth the laws that we have in place. It's unbelievable the attacks that ICE is getting of all people when they're putting their jobs oftentimes on the line to protect this country. What has the reaction been from students at Yale?
So far, I think because we are on summer break, there has not been a strong student reaction, and I wouldn't predict that there will be. I think that these comments mark a part of a larger political narrative. We see things like this on college and university campuses across the country. There is a strong sense of camaraderie with illegal immigrants. There are programs being set up, special scholarships and funds for illegal immigrants. So I don't view my campus as going to react strongly against this professor. I think that his comments will definitely be taken favorably by students at the university.
So you work for Campus Reform. Lawrence Jones, who is a friend of the show, he's always on, he was on Tucker last night, and he was talking about this specific story and this law professor. And in response, the law professor then tweeted at Lawrence Jones, and he says, he says basically that Campus Reform is a hate group. So now he's attacking where you work.
He is, yes. I mean, the first few times that he was reached out to, he had blocked people, declined to comment. So at least he's joined the narrative now. I do feel that people have a right to free speech, and I love it when people express their political opinions. I would just hope that people in academia, people who are leaders, people who are in charge of raising up tomorrow's politicians and lawyers would go about it in a manner that is maybe more respectable and act more wisely. Especially as we've seen the comments of, Maxine Waters, and we've seen the harassment of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think that people who are aware of this larger political narrative, of harassment that's going on, should think more carefully before they tweet and speak and attempt to influence the culture that way.
We are living in some crazy times. Vienna Scott, good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And by the way, we did reach out to that professor. We have not heard back, so we will keep you posted on that one. Coming up on the show, the media keeps pushing the Russia collusion narrative, but it turns out Americans, they don't care. We've got the numbers to prove it. Also, our own Janice Dean is live in Somerset, New Jersey for Muckfest. She gives us a preview of the fun mud run to battle MS, a cause that she is passionate about. That's up next. Welcome back. Well, more than 2.3 million people worldwide are living with MS, including our own Janice Dean, who was diagnosed back in 2005.
But Janice hasn't let her journey with this disease slow her down. She's out at Muckfest MS in Somerset, New Jersey, raising money and raising awareness. Janice, we love you. What are you up to? Great cause.
Aww. We are getting mucky here at Muckfest, 7th year here in Somerset, New Jersey, and the crew back here are very brave. I'm going to tell you that. I've got Al and Mike. I'm going to talk to Al first. You have a fancy title. What is it?
Oh yeah, that real fancy 2 syllables, Muckfest Master.
Oh, that's fantastic.
3 syllables. Right.
You've been here since the beginning.
Yeah, it's been great. When it started in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's been all over the country. I've had a chance to be the MC, and kind of everything starts at the starting line and spend time with millions and millions of people just getting really dirty. It's pretty awesome.
Has MS touched your life?
It has. I was training for a marathon with a dear friend of mine, Vanessa Francis. We were both diagnosed about the same time, except I was diagnosed with diabetes, her with MS, and we trained together, and I became drawn into the whole activity.
I love it. I'm going to be taking over, by the way, Al. Mike, tell me how MS has affected you.
So 5 days after my 40th birthday, I was diagnosed with MS. So that when I first was diagnosed, I was looking for a way to get involved, and I wanted to do something more than just walk. So I thought this was a great marriage.
Tell me, I haven't experienced this. What do I expect?
You should expect to get muddy. You should expect some injury. We've managed
Some injury
over the last 6 years. We've managed to keep it to 8 stitches, but it's not generally that bad. It's scrapes, bumps, bruises.
Tell us about your team.
So my team this year, this is the 6th year that the Dirt Merchants have been participating in Muckfest. And we basically have 67 of friends, families, colleagues, teammates, high school friends, everybody. And everybody has a great time.
I love it. You stay with us. You got to show me the ropes here. Muckfest, annual Muckfest here in Somerset, New Jersey. It is a beautiful day. I know Rick Rakemuth can attest to that. And I will be getting dirty, my friends. Next time you see me, I'll be doing an obstacle course. Hopefully no stitches.
Yeah, Janice, take care of yourself.
You can do it. You can do it, Janice. We believe.
Thank you so much.
All right. Former Vice President Joe Biden calls President Trump's border policy one of the darkest moments in our history. Didn't the policy start under the Obama administration? Why, it may have. That's next.